Hello and welcome to EV Motoring. I'm Joe, and it's time for part 2 of this cross-country road trip here in the standard range Tesla Model 3. So in episode 1, you saw me drive this vehicle to from Chicagoland to Las Vegas and then down to Phoenix. And here we're going to drive from Phoenix back home to Chicagoland, but except I'm going to take a little bit different route than normal. I'm going to do it via Omaha again. So I'm going to go up through Colorado Springs, probably cut through Kansas. From here in Phoenix, my first charging stop should be Payson, Arizona. So that is not that far away. I definitely have enough charge to get there because I already charged earlier today and I'm at about 94% right now. So time to get in the car and hit the road. So again, quick refresh about the vehicle. This is the standard range rear wheel drive 2023 Model 3. That is the LFP batteries, so the iron phosphate batteries. Seem to do pretty good on the way here. I've done 2,231 miles so far. That was between a little bit of extra driving around town after the end of episode 1. And used 699 kilowatt hours and averaged 313 watt hours per mile. So hopefully we get a little better efficiency on the way home, because this is going to be more of a cannonball. That was kind of a more lazy stroll out here. This one's going to be getting home as fast as possible. So my goal for tonight, it's almost 3:30 right now. It's 3:23. Trying to get to Santa Fe, New Mexico tonight. So we'll go ahead and punch that in. So give the car a chance to figure it out. You see here, it wants us to go to Payson. Then I believe that's up through Holbrook and up to Gallup, New Mexico. So here we go. It says we'll get to Payson with 46%. Just a refresher, 93% on the battery right now. It has us doing just a couple charging stops. I think we will try to add another stop or two in between. If I go to the full route again and add the chargers on, there's no way I'm going to want to charge in Payson, skip this charger in Holbrook to make it all the way to Gallup. I'm definitely going to want to charge in Holbrook, so I will, after leaving Payson, add that stop, and we'll do some charger hopping. For those who are not familiar, charger hopping is, instead of sitting in Payson for 30 minutes, I can likely just sit there for 10 minutes and then do another 10-minute charge down the road in Holbrook, rather than, and I'm cutting 10 minutes off of my trip. I mean, a couple minutes on and off the highway, but with Tesla superchargers, you show up, you plug them in, they just work. It's an excellent experience. So why waste time sitting at one when you can get a little further down the road? Plus, my goal of leaving now at this hour is just to try to avoid driving through this area in the dark, because it's pretty desolate all the way up to Holbrook. Once you get to Holbrook, then you're on the interstate, it's a little more comfortable, but the drive from Scottsdale here all the way up to Holbrook is quite a desolate journey. So without talking any longer, it's 84 miles to go to Payson, so let's hit the road. Just arrived in Payson, Arizona. Arrived with 47%, but we don't have enough to make it to Holbrook, I don't think. It says I would get there with 13%. So, I don't know. I was still going to go plug in for 5 minutes because I was going to run into Subway and get a drink. And then I'll plan on eating like a full meal in Holbrook. So let's go plug in. There we go. So yeah, I'm just gonna go run into Subway and I'll be back in 5 minutes and we'll see what kind of energy we have. Crazy quick charge in just a couple minutes, added 11 kilowatt hours to up to 65%. It estimates that we will get to Holbrook with 33%, so have more than enough. It'll just make the next charge a little bit shorter. So let's go unplug and head 97 miles down the road. Just arrived in Holbrook, Arizona. Just plugged in, charging ripped up to 171 as expected. We're here at a Burger King. First time I've ever been at a Tesla supercharger, or any charger for that matter, at a Burger King. Interesting. So I'll definitely run in and use the restroom. Not sure if I want to eat Burger King though. So the next charging stop, let's see what we got here. Gallup, New Mexico. Okay, so let's take a look at this charger and see what's there. Unfortunately, it doesn't get much better in Gallup. It's a Country Pride, a Chester's Chicken, a Subway. So I might be stuck eating just a small snack here at Burger King. And then we'll hit the road. So I guess I'll run in and get a chicken sandwich or something. So this kind of sucks. It's 6:38 p.m. right now. The dining room at Burger King closed at 6 o'clock. So as soon as I'm done here in like 5 minutes, I'm gonna have to run across the street to the Circle K so I can use their restroom. I'll probably still run through Burger King and get, I don't know, a fry or something to hold me over till the next city. But yeah, less than ideal situation. We need to have 24-hour bathrooms at superchargers, that's for sure. Or at least, you know, reasonably open bathrooms. I don't know if they should have a porta potty outside, something. With that, we are charged up to 46%, still pulling amazing speeds at 127 kilowatts. But with these version 3 superchargers, you know, as soon as it starts to taper off 170, once we have enough to make it, which I'll hit continue right now, it just makes sense to hit the road and head 88 miles down the road to Gallup, New Mexico. Now it just adjusted. It said 7% arrival. Now it just changed to 2%. Not sure why that is. I guess I'll just wait here another minute. All right, just hit 50%. Gonna go ahead and unplug. There's no way that I cannot go, come on, 88 miles and 50%. So I feel comfortable about unplugging. Plus I know that I can always, if it starts getting tense, I can always slow down a little bit, but shouldn't have a problem. It says 5% arrival, so we should be good. Just arrived in Gallup, New Mexico with 5%. Gonna go plug in and run into this Best Western here, hit the restroom. Also, excellent charging location. I mean, look at this, right off the highway ramp. So I'm gonna go plug in and we'll check back in a few minutes. So I went in the Best Western, real nice restroom in there. It seems like a nice hotel. Definitely would recommend staying there if you happen to be passing through Gallup. Cleaned out the car, got the bed most of the way set up in the back here. And during all of that process, we've gained 35 kilowatt hours. So we're charged up to 65%. I'm gonna go unplug. It estimates we'll arrive in Albuquerque with 9%, 145 miles down the road. As far as efficiency so far, here's what we have. So the last drive, we get some pretty good efficiency, and really since we left Phoenix, only averaging 267 watt hours per mile. So almost 4 miles per kilowatt hour, which is pretty awesome considering all the elevation we gained leaving Phoenix to get here. So it just shows how efficient this car is when it's in the optimum conditions. Now it's down to 44 degrees, so a little less than optimum right now, but you know, still doing pretty well. I set up another trip right here, says Phoenix to back home, so we'll keep monitoring that as well as the trip as a whole. It's just around 1,800 miles or a little bit more than that from Phoenix to Chicago with the route I'm taking. So lots of miles in just 2.5 days, but already up to 68%. So I'm gonna go unplug and we'll be off 145 miles down the road to Albuquerque, New Mexico. Just made it to Albuquerque, New Mexico. Just plugging in right now. I'm actually at an Applebee's, so another first. Never been at a Applebee's to charge. Let's check out this installation because it's pretty cool. So not sure if I mentioned, I made it here with 2%. I need another 30% to make it to Santa Fe, so I'll charge for a little bit. I might actually go eat something in Applebee's since I haven't really eaten a proper meal yet. But we have 2 stalls right here. This is the older version 2 unit. There's actually a few miles down the road that way, there's a brand new version 3, which looks awesome, but why would I drive a few more miles when it was at a mall? This is actually a better location for me. Normally, I would try to always take the faster charging, but this seems better. Anyway, so yeah, stalls 1 and 2 right here, but then check this out. All of these are pull-through units. Awesome for people coming through here with trailers. They can pull in, charge up, and get out of here. So I made sure to use one of these. That way if a trailer shows up, it'll be easy for them. Plus it's less likely for someone to park right next to me and have to power share with me. They're most likely going to take one of these spots and I'll be less likely to have to power share. So went and got a quick super late dinner. Timing worked out perfectly because they close at 11. It's 10:50 now, so that worked out pretty well. Charged up to 81%, so obviously have more than enough to make it an hour down the road to Santa Fe. But that's great because that means I won't need to charge when I get into town. My plan was to get to Santa Fe and then plug in at their supercharger. Now I won't need to. So I can unplug, hit the road, and we'll see you in Santa Fe. Good morning from Albuquerque. Big thanks to the local BMW dealer, Sandia BMW, for advertising on PlugShare that they have a free plug to use overnight. So I was able to use camp mode, charge up to 100%. It's 7 a.m. right now, so time to hit the road. Destination for the day is Omaha. 120 miles to the Las Vegas, New Mexico supercharger. So I'll probably need to hit a bathroom first, so I'll swing in a gas station, hit a bathroom, and be on my way. But other than that, I slept pretty well this time because I'm in a little bit of a downhill, so it made the back of the car very nice and level. Very happy with this experience versus the time in Breckenridge. I was definitely on the wrong slope, so I kept sliding into the trunk a little bit. So this was a much better experience, and yeah, certainly works in a pinch. Just arrived in Las Vegas, New Mexico. Another really scenic drive up here. Pretty decent efficiency, continuing to hold true since leaving Phoenix. It says we'll get to Trinidad, Colorado with negative 21% because we arrived here with 42%. So we're going to go plug in and for about 15 or 20 minutes, and then we'll be off to Trinidad, Colorado. So I just ran into the Comfort Inn, used the restroom, and cleaned up the back of the car a little bit. And just like that, we're at 71%. So yeah, time to unplug. It's actually saying we're going to get to Trinidad, Colorado with 25%. I think that's wrong. The car's been doing a little bit of a weird recalibration thing that it's saying I'm going to get there with a ton of percent. And then sometimes it adjusts back to reality. I don't know. So we'll see if I actually get there with 26% or if it's much less than that. But either way, no reason to sit here any longer. It's only 123 miles to Trinidad, Colorado. So let's go unplug. Very desolate out here. Also just very desolate in general on this trip. I have not encountered nearly as many Teslas as I expected. But pretty quiet here. Starting to get pretty windy. And hoping this westerly wind pushes us a little bit and saves us some juice. Just arrived in Trinidad, Colorado. Beautiful drive. Look at this scenery. It's pretty much the last I'll see of the Rockies. Charging ripped right up to 170 kilowatts right now, so that's awesome. So should be a quick stop here. Looks like we need another 23% to make it to Lamar, Colorado. Then we will have a little bit deeper charge to make it to Colby, Kansas. Then it's trying to have us stay in Colby for an hour and 5 minutes to make it to Grand Island. I know for a fact, if I go to the full trip plan here, there's Colby. Okay, So here's Grand Island. We're going to go right by Kearney, Nebraska. So I'm definitely going to go to this charger and then probably skip Grand Island and go all the way to Lincoln. I don't know. We'll figure it out there. But for sure, there's no way I'm going to spend an hour and 5 minutes in Colby, Kansas just to skip the Kearney charger. So either way, we'll check back in a few minutes. I'm probably going to... got my computer booted up, so I'm probably going to do a little bit of work, and then we'll see where we're at. So incredible views behind me. Way overcharged, but I wanted to give a quick rundown of this installation. So right here are the original 6 stalls. We can tell that because they're labeled 1A, 1B, 2A, 2B, right? But then over here, Tesla added 3 more stalls labeled 4A, 4B, and 4C. These are the version 3s. So you want to make sure to use the new ones to get the peak power. Otherwise, you'll have a much larger or much longer charging experience if you went over here. But gonna enjoy the last of these scenic views and start heading east into Kansas. We have one more charging stop in eastern Colorado, but time to unplug and go. Let's see what we're at real quickly before we unplug. Oh yeah, charged up to 75%. Way more than we needed. We're gonna arrive with 28% in Lamar. Just arrived in a small town called Lamar, Kansas. Literally feels like I'm in the middle of actual nowhere. But yet, after driving through like wheat fields for literally hours, popped into this town, which has a little bit of business going on, it seems like. Check this out. There's a Colorado Welcome Center here with a old steam train, some pretty cool stuff. And some, according to the map, some food over here. So I'm gonna go check out a Quiznos because I haven't been to Quiznos in years. They don't exist in my area of Illinois anymore. Apologize for the wind. I arrived with 13%. Car estimates we need at least 80% to get out of here. So it's gonna be a lengthy charge anyway. So that's why I've kind of been starving for a while, knowing this charge was gonna take a while. So go eat a little bit of a late lunch, and then we'll be off to Colby, Kansas. So this stop got completely dragged out. Let me show you some things. We're charged up to 98%, so we're gonna make it to Colby, Kansas with 21% to spare. That's because I went and got Quiznos, and then I went back to Quiznos and got a water, and then I had some work I have to do, and then I found this amazing coffee shop called Brew Unto Others. It's just a really good iced coffee with oat milk that I would not expected to find in the middle of this small town in the back of an alley. Exactly the spot I was looking for. But now I'm gonna go unplug, 98%, 161 miles to go to Colby, Kansas. Here we go. Good thing I overcharged a little bit because I arrived in Colby, Kansas with 10%. It had said I was supposed to leave with 80% and I left with 98%. So that would add up to negative 8% arrival had I not overcharged. Granted, a lot of that extra I used via speed. My efficiency was definitely down a little bit on that leg, only 303 watt hours per mile. That's because the wind shifted, so we've had kind of a cross headwind for a while and a little bit higher speeds through these 2-lane roads. But what a day it has been. What a drive. Just some epic roads. I mean, I love going through like the middle of nowhere like that and driving miles and not seeing a single person, just taking like the road less traveled rather than just sitting on the interstate all day. You know, that's way too simple to just go from charger to charger. We got to find the tricky way. So here, look at the map right now. So if we go to the route, you'll see the next leg of the trip is more of the same. I'm just taking more state and U.S. highways, but not interstate, zigzagging my whole way to get up to Kearney, Nebraska. So the next leg is 168 miles. So let's get that. There we go. And then from there, it wants me to go to Lincoln. I'm pretty sure that I'm going to probably stop real quick in Grand Island just to get a quick charge there, because otherwise it's going to be quite a long charge in Kearney. So I'd rather charger hop a little bit. I think that'll save me a little bit of time because the charger in Kearney, or in Grand Island, I should say, is right off the highway. The crazy thing also is we're going to need almost a full charge because we used 88% to go 164 miles because of this headwind. This next leg is 168 miles. So a combination of me going a little bit slower, but the wind is still going to be a headwind. So we're definitely going to play it safe and probably charge up to 90-something%. So I'm going to run into the store right here, see what they have, maybe grab a snack or something, and we'll check back in a bit. Charger, by the way, is just sitting at 131 kilowatts. I was hoping we would get to 150 at this location, but not sure what's going on with that. But still 131 isn't the worst. So another, by the way, empty supercharger. There was one car leaving as I pulled up. But here we are, another day of going from supercharger to supercharger with no one on the road. I don't know, why it's been so desolate and so quiet out here. Granted, when I was in Council Bluffs and Lincoln, Nebraska on my way out to Vegas, it was pretty busy. And then it was busy once I got to Utah, because that was Friday night, people heading to Vegas. But the rest of the journey's been relatively quiet. So it's been very nice of pulling up, plugging in, not even have to think about power sharing. So it looks like the charger down the road in Kearney has, so there's 2 cars there right now, but it's a 250 version 3 supercharger. So even if there was 7 cars there, we would still get peak speed showing up. So great charging with the Tesla supercharger network yet again. So this is definitely putting the standard range Tesla Model 3 to the test. We have about a 10 to 13 mile an hour headwind I'm going to be having as it starts to cool off and start cruising. I'm up to 96% right now, and that's only giving me saying I'll arrive in Kearney, Nebraska with 3%. So I'm still going to let it go to like 98 and then I'll unplug, but certainly going to be a very stressful 2.5 hours of driving. So fingers crossed that I make it, because there's not a bailout point. Basically, if I show, where's the route? There we go. There is nothing, and I can hit the supercharger thing right there. And I looked on PlugShare. There's like a couple campgrounds in the middle, but I mean, I'm not going to a campground. There's really no bailout option if I don't make it to Kearney, Nebraska. So fingers crossed on this bit of the journey. Okay, charged up to 98%. Gonna go ahead and unplug and continue the journey to Kearney, Nebraska. Fingers crossed on this one because the wind seems to be picking up and getting worse. it with 2%, just plugged in, right away ripped up to 3%, just like that. What a sketchy drive it was. You know, it was pretty dark, couldn't see that well. Consumption was a little bit high at 312 watt hours per mile because the temperature is cold, 33 degrees. So I was worried about some potential icing spots because the road, you know, maybe there's some meltage that then refroze at night. So either way, just plugged in. It wants me to go to Lincoln. I'm just going to jump right in right now and add the Grand Island supercharger. Definitely going to go there. There we go. Just corrected the navigation a little bit. So I changed my address from Omaha to the Mill. That's where I'm going. It's an apartment complex in Omaha. And I added the Grand Island supercharger. Says we would arrive with negative 15% right now. So I'm sure by the time I run into the restroom and come back, it'll be time to go. There you have it. In a few short minutes, we're up to 36%. We'll arrive in Grand Island with 10%. It's only 41 miles down the road. So I'm going to go unplug and hit the road. I flew down the highway 42 miles from Kearney to Grand Island. Got here with 11%. Gonna go ahead and plug in. It says we need 48% more. So we're gonna make sure we have at least about 65% before we head off to Lincoln, Nebraska. So I just froze myself, went over to the travel center here, got Subway, and came back. We're already at 68%. So we will arrive in Lincoln with 7%. Here's a little trick I did. So I'm actually thinking of going to the Electrify America, which is this dot right here, because it's right off the highway, whereas the Lincoln Supercharger is actually a little bit of a pain to get to. And last time I was in it, the Lincoln Supercharger was not the best experience. It was a little bit sluggish on the charging, and could have just been because it was crowded or time of day or cold, I don't know. But either way, I have it set to go to Lincoln first, so it will precondition the battery. Then once I get close, I'll change the navigation to go just straight to Casey's so I don't get lost. But that way the battery will stay nice and warm. So at 70%, let's go unplug and head, it's actually about 86 miles down the road to Lincoln. I arrived in Lincoln, Nebraska with 13%. It's already charged up to 19% while I've been messing around with my phone for a few minutes. Let me show you how I'm charging at this Casey's gas station. I'm gonna make this super quick because I am freezing, but I'm charging here on Electrify America at a super cheap price, may I add, only about like 20 cents a minute or something crazy like that, with this adapter right here. I did a bigger review with it in episode 1 of this road trip, and I've also done a full review of this Electron adapter, so be sure to check that out, and link in the description. Great, so almost finished with the final charging stop of today. 925 miles it'll be today by the time it's all said and done, so crazy long 16 hours of travel, including the charging stops. Let's take a look at a little bit of the plan that I have here. So right now we're at 60%. It shows that we would get to the mill apartment complex with 26%. I want to charge just a little bit more, you know, still getting 84 kilowatts of speed. So I'll stand for a few minutes more because I want to have enough juice to be able to run Sentry mode for a few days, because I think I'm going to stay in Omaha for an extra day so I can work tomorrow. And then the other plan is, part of that other plan is, I need to have enough juice not only to get to this supercharger, but I would love to have enough juice that I can just go straight to Shelby when I leave town in a couple days. There's no charging around the apartment complex that I'm staying at, so that kind of stinks a little bit. But when I was heading west, I had left, I mean, it was much colder back then, but I had left the mill apartment complex and went straight to Council Bluffs. And the thing is, that drive was so short, I wasn't able to properly precondition the battery. So it was an awful charging experience because it was just, you know, charging at like 60 kilowatts, or might even been less than that. So it would be more ideal if I have enough juice that I can get to Shelby when I leave Omaha, and that'll give it ample time to run the battery preconditioner, because just driving the car on its own doesn't really heat the battery at all, or very, very little, especially in these cold conditions. You need to be running the battery heater to properly heat the battery, and that takes quite a bit of time. I mean, with this car, there's times where I'll be like 80 miles or 100 miles from a supercharger, and it'll still be running the battery preconditioning. So I don't know if that's just something with the LFP pack. Feel free to comment down below, you know, how early do you typically see your battery preconditioning running when you're on a trip? So I'd love to actually learn more about that, to know if it's just an LFP thing or if just all Teslas kind of use this method of preconditioning. But with that, I'm up to 64% right now. Probably just take it to 70%, and then so I'll check back in a couple minutes. We'll unplug and we'll head off to Omaha. All right, at 69%, gonna go ahead and stop charging. So check this out. That means for $6.07, I added a little over 120 miles of range. Pretty cheap when they're charging by the minute. But let's hit the road and off to Omaha. All right, had about a day and a half in Omaha. It was pretty good to get off the road for a little bit, but car is at 20%, actually just dipped down to 19% as I've been preheating. I wish I could make it 45 miles down the road to Shelby, Iowa, but I don't think I can. So the first charging stop is going to be the Council Bluffs, Iowa one. That's the same one I went to last time I was in Omaha when I was leaving, heading west towards Lincoln, towards Colorado. So last experience there was pretty crowded. Not so great because the battery was pretty cold, so I'm hoping I can yo-yo the car a little bit more, get the battery a little bit warmer, and have a better charging experience in Council Bluffs, Iowa. So I have just about 500 miles to go today. It says, yeah, so 19%, 37 degrees outside, just about 11 o'clock, and we'll be in Council Bluffs with 10%. Hopefully we can get a little bit lower than 10% to make some extra heat, and then we'll talk about the rest of the drive home from there. starting to get some work done. We already have enough to make it to Shelby with quite a bit to spare, so we'll try to burn some of that off, heating the battery up. It's only been charging at 100 kilowatts, which is better than it was last time I was here, but still not as good as it could be because we're at 30%. We should be pulling at least 120 or 130 right here. So I'm going to drive 31 miles down the road to Shelby, Iowa, and then we'll have a little bit longer charge because then the next charger after that will be, it says Altoona. I think there's one in Des Moines that I'll actually hit before that, so we'll check it when we get there. Total journey, right now it's estimating we'll get home at 9 o'clock. I think we'll beat that as well. Also, something random, when I was pulling up, I saw the shopping cart here, and I'm like, what is going on here in Council Bluffs? Then I realized the drain is all jacked up. And the shopping cart is actually awesome because it's preventing people from destroying their Tesla on that drain. Anyway, time to unplug here. 33%. Ran into the quick pick, got a water, charged up to 64% because I was doing a little work. So gonna get to Des Moines with 18%. If I look at the chargers, there we are. I cannot make it to Grinnell yet. So I'm not gonna sit here long enough to make that happen. I could make it to Altoona, but these are 150 units. So, you know, it's better for me to go to Des Moines because those are 250 units. So I'll get a little bit better charge out of those. So I'll go there, and then the one after that will be, what was this one again? Grinnell. And then after Grinnell should be the Walcott, the giant truck stop. So those are the next couple charging stops. Right now I'll go unplug at 66%, getting to Des Moines with 19%, 101 miles down the road. Just arrived in Des Moines, Iowa with 13%. It wants me to charge like 70% to make it to the Iowa truck stop. There is a charger here in the middle. Actually, there's a couple chargers in the middle that I could hit, but I think I'm gonna go venture to this barbecue restaurant across the street called Smokey's Barbecue, something like that. It had incredible reviews according to whatever rating service is built into the Tesla route planner. So I don't know if it's Yelp or something like that, Google reviews, whatever. So I think I'm gonna venture across the street, and when I get back, we'll see what percentage we're at, and maybe we'll be able to make it all the way to the Iowa truck stop. All right, just ran over to that Smokey's Barbecue. It was pretty solid. They apparently are like an award-winning barbecue. I thought it was pretty good. It was only like $8 for a sandwich, so can't really beat that. Now let's see what percentage we're at right now. 83%. Let's see. And it says we'll get to Walcott with 3%. So I say we unplug because there are plenty of bailout options if I don't make it to Walcott. I can stop in Grinnell and then even Iowa City before we would get to the truck stop at Walcott, Iowa. So either way, and there's a couple Electrify Americas too. So we'll hit the road and let's see how far it is. 149 miles to Walcott, Iowa. Just got to the self-proclaimed world's largest truck stop here in Walcott, Iowa, and arrived with 4%. Efficiency wasn't so wonderful, just about 3 miles per kilowatt hour, because believe it or not, even though I'm heading east, I still have about a 10 mile an hour headwind. So usually you get the westerly winds pushing you home, but not so this time. So it looks like I need about 60% to get out of here. So I'm gonna go plug in, run in, get a coffee, and we'll get back and see where it's at. So just like last time passing through here, I got my caribou, then just got a bagel, nothing too much here. I just ate a couple hours ago, so only one charging stop to go after this, I think. So car's already somewhere over 50%, crazy fast, like as fast as I could get in there, get a coffee, hit a restroom, and come back. You know, it's incredible how fast this car charges when you pull in at the optimum percentage, like 4%. It's able to really rip on the charging curve, and you're ready to bounce down the street. So get in, we should be about 60%. Head over to Rochelle, Illinois. That's another 250 unit, and I think that'll be the last charge of the trip. And yeah, we'll sum it up a little more at the next stop, but I'm pretty happy with the standard range Tesla Model 3. I was a little skeptical not buying the long range, but it's proven to make me pretty happy. And then the convenient thing is around home, because you can charge the standard range to 100% pretty much every day. And in fact, Tesla advises you to make sure you charge it to 100% at least once a week. You have 270 miles, well, realistically, 240 or 250 miles to use every single day. Whereas when you're only charging your long range to about 80%, you only have about 270 miles to use every day. So, you know, a lot of benefit out of the standard range. You know, you're not paying for all that extra battery, you're not lugging around that extra battery. So you get higher efficiency because it's a little bit lighter weight, only single motor. So far, I've been in some pretty nasty, snowy conditions. Be sure to, hopefully you watched episode 1. That was pretty brutal coming through Glenwood Springs, Colorado. So, yeah, can't recommend the car enough at this point. We'll do a full 10,000 mile review when I get there, but now let's hop in and see what percentage we're at. So here's where we're at. We're at 80%. We were originally going to go to Rochelle, Illinois, right there, but we actually have enough should have enough to make it to North Aurora. And since they're both on the same Interstate 88 that I'll be taking, my plan is, it says I'll get there with 4% if I leave right now. So I'm just going to go ahead and plug and leave. And if for some reason, you know, the wind changes or it ends up being a little less efficient than anticipated, I'll just stop in Rochelle and grab some juice. But if not, and I can make it all the way to North Aurora, that's great too. So just ticked up to 81%, gonna unplug and hit the road, 141 miles down to our last charging stop of the trip. Just got to North Aurora, the last charging stop of the trip, and did it in true Tesla road tripping fashion. 0% arrival. I drove about a mile and a half once it hit 0. So, yeah, time to get plugged in and get this car charged up. The one downside of, running the battery down that low, obviously there's some range anxiety. Another piece of it is the car is only charging at 150 kilowatts now at 15%. So, I mean, it ripped 170 kilowatt speed from dead to whatever, 10, 12%. But because the battery didn't get to precondition, it's kind of cold. So it couldn't hold that speed as much as it would want to. So it's already starting to ramp down. But with that said, I don't need a really healthy charge here. I only need about 20% to get home. I'm gonna charge to probably like 40% because ideally I'll wanna try to make sure I can get to work with about 10% left. That way if I don't get my charger, get to use one of the chargers at work, like they might be full or occupied, I'll still be able to make it back home and then charge up at home. But goal is charge up to like 40, 45%, something like that, and make it home and head off to work tomorrow. So let's go back in the car and kind of recap the trip as a whole. So I guess I'll start with a couple lowlights of the trip. Car-wise. I mean, obviously the weather is the weather, it is what it is. And quite frankly, because I had some extreme weather, almost say that's a good thing because that allowed me to test this car in pretty much every imaginable condition. I had, perfect conditions in the 70s when I was leaving Phoenix, and we saw over 4 miles per kilowatt hour in those stretches. But then we had some pretty brutal winds and sub-zero temperatures, and that dragged us down to under 3 miles per kilowatt hour. 25% range adjustment based on the wind and the temperatures not going our way. That's pretty common. And in fact, in like the Polestar or the Volkswagen ID4 that I used to have, it was much more extreme of a hit with those adverse weather conditions because they did not have a heat pump like this car does. Some think you can get a heat pump on an ID4 now. I'm not sure on that one. I know on the Polestar you can. If you get the premium package or prestige package, something like that it's called, that gets you either the ability to check the box for the heat pump or just comes with the heat pump, something like that. That definitely makes a big difference. I've noticed that for sure on this trip of, still being able to get pretty good range out of the car. And I've actually done a range test. I don't remember what the exact number was. Did a range test when it was like -5 degrees about a month ago. I'll probably have posted that by the time you would actually see this trip. So, definitely check that out. Once the weather gets nice, I'll do a warm weather range test in this car as well. But either way, so the negative about this car is I purchased the full self-driving just for 1 month. And during that whole time, if we go in here to autopilot, so see it says press request full self-driving beta. I requested that the day that I got purchased the full self-driving. This is now almost a month later, and I still have never gotten the full self-driving. So basically, I paid $200 for these features, just lane changes, which I ended up turning off the exit passing lane because it constantly kept trying to change lanes on me too much. When I was going through desolate areas like Utah or certain areas of Colorado or whatever, areas in New Mexico, and where I'm like just passing a truck every 10 minutes and there's really not much other traffic, the auto lane changes with exiting the passing lane was really nice. I really liked that because as soon as I would pass that truck, car wanted to move back over into the right lane, and that was great. But on a day like today when there was just tons of truck traffic, you probably saw on the camera here that I was constantly stuck with like semi in the right lane doing 65, semi in the left lane doing 66. So it's like very drawn out passes. That certainly was throwing the system off because it wanted to keep trying to force me to go in the right lane to thinking I can pass cars there. And, that's not going to work because then nobody's going to let me back into the left lane to make the path, when I need to get around the truck that's inevitably in the right lane. So I ended up turning that feature off eventually. I still like the auto lane changes in general because if you have like the Chevy Ford Blue Cruise in your Mach-E, or Super Cruise on a Chevy Bolt, for example, or the upcoming Equinox or other Chevy vehicles coming out with that. You can be in the not full self-driving, what's the word? Enhanced cruise control that those features are, or that those systems are. And you can put on your signal and change lanes, and it'll automatically re-engage the, lane centering that, along with the adaptive cruise. However, in the Tesla, if you don't have the auto lane change, navigate on autopilot kind of feature, when you want to change lanes, you have to disengage autopilot. So when you start applying force to the wheel, it kind of then abruptly releases, and you kind of jerk over into the lane more aggressively, and it's not as comfortable as it could be. So I find it easier to just tap the brake and then change lanes rather than trying to steer out of autopilot. That's something that would be nice if they added the feature that when I turn on the turn signal, the car will allow me to change lanes. That'll automatically disengage the autopilot, and then it'll re-engage the autopilot as soon as the lane change is complete. Now, I know that's basically a feature that's included in enhanced autopilot, but it kind of sucks to pay $5,000 or $6,000 for basically that feature, because this car does not have radar. So, all these features that were a part of this $200 that I paid last month for full self-driving, I didn't get summon, I didn't get self-parking. I mean, not that I would use it, I'd park the car myself anyway, because there's no ultrasonic sensors or any of that stuff. So something I really missed also as part of the ultrasonic sensors being gone is the Tesla used to show you when you're backing up to something, that you're 10, 12, 13 inches away from hitting whatever object it is. Now that that's gone, that kind of sucks to, not have that data. I don't know the last time I've had a car that didn't have forward parking sensors. That makes it super easy to parallel park a car when you're pulling up, and you can look on your screen and it shows you, oh, you're 10 inches from hitting the car in front of you. Well, now it's back like old school, and you're looking over the hood trying to see, am I about to hit this car in front of me, So I think that's a miss that they took the ultrasonic sensors off. I get it, they're trying to cut costs, but the vision just isn't there yet. Another thing is a lot of phantom braking. Just and I get it. I started to learn about the system more, that say I'm passing a semi on the left and we're doing kind of a slight right turn, because the car can't really see around that semi, it's hesitating to accelerate and pass the semi in when autopilot's engaged. So I understand why the car is doing it, but it certainly gets scared at times, and it threw me off definitely a couple times when it did it. Other times, for no apparent reason, it would just slam on the brakes, and not even just going on an underpass. This would just be like on a 2-lane road. When I was going from Vegas to Phoenix, I don't know why. Completely clear windshield, completely clear conditions, and the system freaked out. So that kind of sucks when that happened. But I know I've kind of ranted on about some of the bad things, but there is way more overwhelming good things about this car. I mean, what I think, the car you're getting for the price of using the supercharger network, and I know they're expanding and allowing other cars to use the supercharging network, but feel free to do your research on the pricing on that. Typically, it would cost me 30 cents a kilowatt hour, to supercharge. Those same superchargers, they're charging like 50 cents a kilowatt hour for people charging a non-Tesla there. So they're certainly making their money off those people, So I just think you get a lot with the Tesla. You get the features of, I watch Netflix at a couple chargers, or I showed on in episode 1 that you can go to YouTube and watch the EV motoring channel. There's lots of little quirks that make this car just a really fun place to be for the last couple weeks. And above all, the camp mode. I mean, I know Rivian has camp mode, but those are quite expensive vehicles. But to be able to set up the little air mattress in the back here, run the heater all night long, and be, relatively comfortable without the cost of a hotel room, that's a huge added bonus. And I'm very happy that I moved on from the Polestar, even though, I did like that car for a lot of reasons, but moving on from the Polestar to get this Tesla saved a ton. It's much more affordable, so I'm saving money on my car payment. Got the 10,000 miles of free supercharging, so certainly burned through some of that. And it's just been a really great car so far. So since I just mentioned the free supercharger miles, I wanted to check where I was at this point. So car came with 10,000. I left on this trip with about 9,500, or a little bit less than that actually, because I went to St. Louis. It was around like 9,200 miles of free supercharging, and I still have 6,800 left. And here's what's interesting about that. This trip as a whole was 4,060 miles. Well, and actually I have another 40 miles to go to get home. And I know I did a couple charges at Electrify America and a couple charges at a hotel, but most of it was supercharging. So I'd be shocked if, I don't know, 500 miles or so, something like that, came from non-Tesla chargers. I don't even think it'd be that much, but let's even be conservative and say 500 miles. That means 3,500 miles were done with the supercharger network, and not that many miles came off of my account. Essentially, only 2,700 miles or so came off of my supercharger account, even though I was able to drive 3,500 miles. That's because Tesla is really conservative on what they consider a supercharger mile. They don't use the EPA numbers. They use a much more realistic number in getting your supercharger miles. So you really, a lot of times, if you have like a standard range Model 3 like this, you can get 12 or 13,000 miles out of that 10,000 supercharger miles. So that's certainly a nice benefit to have, and glad to see that I have multiple more road trips of free charging still left on the clock. So now let's wrap up with, in my opinion, the best feature of owning this car, and that is the efficiency. In the 4,060 miles of incredibly adverse conditions for temperature, other than basically the 1.5 days of driving from Phoenix up to through Kansas to back to, basically the weather got bad once I got to Colby, Kansas. So you have roughly somewhere close to 1,000 miles was really nice weather. But outside of that, it's all been pretty horrible weather, and still getting 300 watt hours per mile, which means I'm getting 3.3 miles per kilowatt hour out of this car. That's pretty impressive to me, considering every other car I've had, I'm averaging somewhere around 2.5 to 2.7 in bad weather conditions. So huge efficiency jump, which just means you're using less energy to get from point A to point B. So let's just assume I'm driving like 100 miles. In another car, I'd use like 40 kilowatt hours of energy to do that. And in this car, I'm only using 30 kilowatt hours of energy. So now we get to the charger, I only need to add 30 kilowatt hours of energy to go the next 100 miles. Whereas the other car, I would need to add 40 kilowatt hours of energy. That makes a big difference. And then you throw in that this car charges faster than the other cars I've owned. Polestar was pretty competitive, as it did have a decent charging curve, but this peak speed of 170 kilowatts, and more importantly with the supercharger network, as fast as I can push the park on the shifter column and plug the car in, the charging initiates. With other cars where you have to initiate the charge through like the Electrify America app, you spend a couple minutes essentially fidgeting around, getting it plugged in, getting the charge started. Hopefully it's a good charge, otherwise you have to move to another station, sometimes call tech support if the charger's not working that well. And then after all of that, it still takes like 30 seconds for the charge to initiate and start ramping up, just because it's a longer communication occurs between the car and the charger. Here, plug it in, and I most times I just walk away and go into the store or restaurant or gas station, wherever I'm going, because I know it's going to work. I know that it's going to ramp up to a really good speed. I can even check it with the app so easily, and it's just a phenomenal experience of how easy it makes road tripping with the route planner. So during all of this rambling, we're up to 67%, way more than I even need. So I'm going to go ahead and unplug, and we're going to head off the last, how many miles? Let's see, 42 miles back home. I'll continue all of that rolling clips, as well as the total trip data will be at the bottom of the screen at the end. But this also would be a great time for me to let you know, thank you so much for watching. I really hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please do like it. I hope you saw episode 1 as well. And if you subscribe, we do all sorts of EVs on this channel, not just Teslas. So certainly check out some of our other non-Tesla road trips that we've done in the past with the Polestar 2 and the Volkswagen ID4. So, you know, and plan on always doing lots of different content with whatever vehicles we can get our hands on, and really appreciate it. So with that, I guess here will be the rest of the clips on the drive home. As I mentioned, the data all down below, and take care until next time.